I found myself in Bangladesh, where the roads are chaotic and people are openly peddling ice on the streets.
A country like Bangladesh has one of the largest solar home system markets in the world. Over 5 million solar home systems. So most households in every rural area in Bangladesh actually has a solar home system, and that's their primary source of energy.
This charming 23-year-old is Neil Tamane, who has studied alternative energy technologies and come home to help power his country. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who wanted to hear him talk.
So what we do is we interconnect solar home systems and we enable energy sharing between them, which is basically trading, and the customer chooses when they want to trade and when they don't. Instead of building large grids, we're proposing a decentralized structure where we start building grids bottom up.
The setup is quite simple. Any home that has solar panels and a battery can buy this special box, which connects them to another house with the same setup. The box allows the buying or selling of energy between the homes. But it gets better.
There is still a segment of the population that still can't afford to buy a solar home system. So instead of doing that, if they can just buy a small soul box, they can just buy energy when they need it. You fill up your soul box with money. As you keep using energy, it deducts money.
What this means is that all the boxes can connect to each other to form a microgrid. It's like a water tank of community energy that people can give to or take from. The beauty is that this microgrid can then connect to the adjacent village's microgrid, and the network becomes stronger and stronger. There's a mimicking of nature here, isn't there? Like in the way that cells multiply and form something and strengthen. Yeah,
That's a great analogy. You have one solar home system, you interconnect with your neighbors, you make it 50. Slowly you interconnect villages. Once you've collected 100 villages, you can hook it up to the grid. You can sell to the grid. Forget buying from it. You become the primary energy generation source for the country. So the idea is we are like a swarm of bees or a swarm of fish that move together, pool in all our energies together to run bigger roads.
As I left the village, I had a renewed sense of hope. Particularly when Neil told me this technology is springing up in other countries. This solution is great for our environment, with so many cascading benefits for any community that chooses to adopt it. So, sticking to my rule of only showing what exists today, here's what the future of energy could look like for my daughter.
Crystal, bring up energy?
Certainly. What would you like me to do?
Imagine if your house in 2040 is part of a microgrid that helps power the economy throughout your city. Imagine if your windows are solar glass and come standard in new homes. And your solar battery is cheap and recyclable. This could allow you to donate your excess energy.
I'm going away for 4 days.
Would you like to share or sell?
Share. Hurricane relief?
Done. You're a legend.
Thanks.
Humans are awesome.
Okay.
That choice was good for your soul.
Or
It's going to have a battery that's going to store as much electricity as possibly can store. And all the governments in the world cannot push back against that because folks are going to go buy it at the store, at IKEA, at Walmart, the supermarket. And it's going to be very cheap. It's so cheap that you're not even going to notice.
If cheaper home energy systems are combined with more people demanding clean energy from their politicians, darling, then there's a chance many countries could be close to 100% renewable by 2040.
to invent a plane, and you type in the coordinates where you want it to go, and in a split second, you're there.
I think electric cars would help the environment because that causes less pollution.
And maybe get electric cars if they can, because that reduces like fossil fuels, and then that also stops global warming.
And instead of using cars, I would like to use rocket boots to go around, and they would be powered by plants. Oh, that would be so cool. That'd be awesome. And rocket boots, I think, would be really cool to see people flying around the city in. And also, I want it to go worldwide, and I want to try and invent them.
In the US right now, road vehicles contribute to 20% of emissions. But our environment and sanity will be severely tested, with predictions of an extra 1 billion cars worldwide by 2040. A possible solution could be replacing car ownership with on-demand driverless vehicles.
The same way that we went from owning DVDs or CDs or records or whatever to having all of those on demand, essentially Netflix and so on, the same thing is going to happen with transportation.
I wasn't sure I trust a driverless car with my daughter, so I subjected this prototype to the surprise pedestrian test. Ah, yes! Robots 1, human 0. The next test was a little more challenging. Traffic.
When I push this button, this car will be driving itself. And wish me luck. Right. So this is my first experience in a driverless vehicle, and I'm a little bit nervous because that wheel's turning by itself. Siri, please look after me. So yeah, you can see that's our car tracking there, and the little LiDAR, the radar on top, is reading out all the information, I think about 50 metres ahead of us, and scanning the area and determining what's around us, what other obstacles, what it should look out for, pedestrians, bike riders, other cars. So it's constantly ahead of us, predicting.
Two things are going to happen. We're all going to have a massive fleet of cars that are going to pick you up at home, take you to work, take you to the supermarket, and so on. And the other one, even if you already own a car that you already paid off, it's going to be 4 times more expensive just to own that car than it is to access transportation as a service. So autonomous electric vehicles.
I do like the freedom of my own car. So the big question is, are enough of us willing to give that up and embrace shared transportation? If we did embrace on-demand transport, much like we now require fewer CDs or DVDs, we'd also require fewer vehicles and almost no parking space.
2/3 of LA is parking and roads. You could fit 3 cities the size of San Francisco in the empty parking space left by the autonomous vehicle disruption. And so as a society, we need to make decisions. What do we do with all that parking space that's going to be vacant?
All the cars that your mum and I ever owned were stranded assets, meaning that 96% of the time they were parked or unused. But now, in 2040, with driver costs gone and the rideshare explosion, fewer people actually own cars. They get around in luxurious pods like this for next to nothing. But I secretly hope, darling, that Rocket Boots Girl has achieved her ambition of worldwide domination.
So this is a huge disruption of a massive part of the labor force.
Inevitably, there'll be debates around this technology. But if enough of us embrace ride sharing, we could reclaim our cities for humans instead of vehicles and generate millions of new jobs.
This is big vision. We just need to have that vision now. A lot of people want to be working on something that they can see is actually helping to regenerate and innovatively recreate the world.
The extra space in our cities could allow the building of more low-cost, sustainable homes. And we could see the growth of remanufacturing industries, which might convert existing vehicles to electric. But most exciting could be the urban food farms that spring up in empty parking lots, or inside disused car parks. And imagine having fresh local food growing on our rooftops. This would also contribute to a much healthier environment.
It's unbeatable to grow food in your own backyard. It's unbeatable to grow food all through and around your city. It's unbeatable to grow food on your roof. Those are the absolute gold standard of emissions.
If you do choose to live in a city though, I hope it's a bit like this. A city where so many of the public parks, urban food projects, and cleaner transport networks all contribute to a healthier environment, while fostering a greater sense of community and a hell of a lot less road rage. But the bonus is that you can now actually hear birds singing in the middle of the city.
If we ceased all emissions today, if we cut emissions to zero, human emissions to zero, we would still be toast. We're still already over a tipping point and on our way to a point of no return. So we have to reduce the emissions that we're producing today, and we also have to sequester carbon. We have to remove excess carbon from the atmosphere and store it.
With an increased sense of urgency, I met with Paul Hawken, who thankfully isn't afraid of heights. He's the founder of Project Drawdown, the first comprehensive plan to reverse global warming. Paul suggested I first explore food and agriculture for drawdown opportunities.
When you change agricultural practices related to food, you can do two things. One is you stop emitting carbon, CO2, but you're also sequestering carbon. So it's one of those sectors, that actually does both. It's a twofer, which is not only does it stop putting it up, but it actually brings it down. So you're flipping a whole sector.
COP helps farmers around the world use plants to pull carbon from the atmosphere and put it into their soils. Because our constant ploughing of the soil has released billions of tons of the stuff.
Over the last 10,000 years of agriculture, the degradation of soils has been one of the leading causes of climate change. It's actually, as of right now, a larger cause of climate change than burning fossil fuels.
I asked Cole to strike a farming calendar pose to explain how he brings the carbon back home. Plants use carbon dioxide and energy from the sun to create simple sugars. The plant uses some of these sugars to grow. The rest is pumped into the soil through the roots. These sugars feed soil microbes, which interact with the plant, and the carbon dioxide taken from the atmosphere is sequestered into the soil as carbon. When it rains, the soil on the left, with more carbon and organic matter, absorbs the water and less runs off the top. whereas the chemical-ridden soil on the right absorbs almost no water and allows it to run off, taking the chemicals with it into nearby rivers and waterways.
It's actually impossible to maintain the resources we're using. So we're going to have to transition, and it's going to be a little bit awkward if we're going to give our kids a better future.
While storing carbon in our soils will go a long way at solving our problem, there is a limit to how much carbon soil can hold. So we're going to need another leg up from Mother Nature.
Make sure our colour looks okay, because it normally looks like a rainbow in the sea with all the fishes, but sometimes if you litter, it looks a bit not good. It looks like a big mess.
At the beach, it would just not be the same if you can't swim in the water. And also all the really amazing marine animals like vaquita, whales, sea fish, if they were all gone, then it just wouldn't be the same, the world.
I want the oceans to be cleaner.
One of the coming attractions that I think could have the biggest impact is what is called marine permaculture. This is another way of farming in the ocean, but this is a more wild farming because it actually sets up the context for the oceans to regenerate themselves. Dr. Brian Van Herzen, a physicist, used to fly to Europe every year, and he saw how quickly the Greenland ice sheet was melting and decided to change his whole life in 2006 to restoring living systems and focused on the ocean.
With 93% of global warming going into the ocean today each year, the problem is that the waters are getting too warm and without enough overturning circulation, and there aren't enough nutrients. And the result is we lose the life in the ocean.
Understandably, there has been reluctance to meddle with our oceans. But the fact that they are getting warmer, becoming acidic, and many fish species are now in danger of collapse, means that they actually need our help. Brian's solution is seaweed.
Marine permaculture is a regenerative technology that works like this.
A frame made of recycled material becomes a platform for the seaweed to grow on. It sits just below the surface and sinks lower as the seaweed grows and gets heavier. A pump, powered simply by the rise and fall of the ocean, brings the cold, nutrient-laden waters from below and disperses them over the seaweed in the upper, warmer layer. The seaweed can be regularly harvested and used for a range of purposes.
Seaweed